Today I'm going to be showing you how to crochet this absolutely beautiful yet extraordinarily easy scarf. This stitch works up really quickly. It's a very easy one row repeat and it shows off your variegated yarns beautifully. You don't have to be using a variegated yarn to make this scarf. It looks equally gorgeous if you just used a plain colour as well. To begin, we're going to pop a slip knot onto our hooks, but leave a nice long tail at the start because we can incorporate that into our fringing at the end of the project. So leaving a decent tail, pop a slip knot onto your hook. Now for the scarf, we're going to be using the single crochet mesh stitch. This is a really nice simple one row repeat. And the pattern multiple for it is simply an even number. So all that means is we're going to chain an even number. So a multiple of 2 until you get the width that you want for your scarf. For my personal scarf, I chained 26 with my slightly chunkier yarn, but you can chain as many as you'd like for the width. I'm just going to be making a small sample here today, so I'm going to go ahead and chain 18. Once you have your even number of chains in the width that you would like your scarf to be, we're going to begin by working into the second chain from the hook. Now, I also like to work into the back bumps for this. This is entirely optional. You go into whichever part of the chain you find easiest. But if you would also like to go into the back bumps, if you look at your chains, you have these little V's forming the chains. If you rotate it around, you'll see you have these little bumps on the back. This is where I'm going to be working my stitches, but as I say, you work into whichever part of the chain you find easiest. Into the second chain from your hook, this loop on your hook does not count as anything. You only want to count these fully formed chains hanging down below. So 1, 2, I'm going to turn mine over to find the back bump. Into the second chain from the hook, we work a single crochet stitch. Chain 1, skip a chain and work a single crochet into the next. Chain 1, skip a chain and work a single crochet into the next. We're going to work this all the way down the length of your chain. Chain 1, skip a chain and single crochet into the next. Chain 1, skip a chain and single crochet into the next. Do this until you have run out of chains to work into. You'll end by working a single crochet into that very last chain. For row 2 is the pattern repeat row. All that means is this next row we're about to crochet is the one that we repeat over and over and over again until your scarf is the length that you want it to be. I'll recap it a couple of times, so don't worry if you don't get it on this first run through. So for row 2, we're going to chain 1, which does not count as a stitch, and turn our work. Just flip it like the page of a book. Now into that same single crochet that you just chained from, we're going to work a single crochet. So right into the top of that stitch, we work a single crochet. Then chain 1, skip this chain 1 space entirely and find the top of your next single crochet. If it helps to rotate the work around, you can see there's my chain and there is the top of my stitch. Chain, stitch, all the way down. So we're going to skip the chain 1 spaces and work a single crochet into the top of the next single crochet. Chain 1, skip the chain space and work a single crochet into the top of the single crochet from the row below. We're going to repeat this all the way across. Chain 1, skip the chain 1 space, find the top of your single crochet stitch and work your new single crochet into the top of that. Chain 1, skip the chain 1 space and work a single crochet into the top of the single crochet from the row below. Keep working this all the way along. Chain 1, skip the chain 1 space, find the next single crochet and work your single crochet stitch into the top of that. Once you have reached the other side, your last single crochet will be a little bit tucked around. So don't forget, we have to chain 1, skip that chain 1 space and find this very last stitch and work your last single crochet into the top of that one. We'll go over that again. So this is a repeat of row 2. We're literally just going to be doing the same thing back and forth, back and forth. Chain 1, which does not count as a stitch, turn your work, find that very first single crochet that you just chained from and work your first single crochet right into the top of that one. Then chain 1, skip the chain 1 space and work your next single crochet into the top of the single crochet that you made on the row below. Chain 1, skip the chain 1 space, find the next single crochet and work your single crochet into the top of it. We do this all the way across. Chain 1, skip the chain 1 space, single crochet into the next single crochet. Once you have worked your way across to the other side, we're going to chain 1, skip that chain 1 space and end with a single crochet into the top of the last single crochet of the row. You may want to turn your work a little bit just to spot those 2 V's of that stitch there and work your last single crochet. I'll recap that one more time for you. We're going to chain 1, does not count as a stitch, turn your work and work a single crochet into the top of that very first single crochet directly where you just chained from. Then working all the way across to the other side, we chain 1, skip the chain 1 space and work a single crochet into the top of the single crochet stitch from the row below. We work this all the way across. It's a really nice, simple, easy pattern. So you're going to keep repeating row 2, this row we just keep going back and forth with over and over and over until your scarf is the length that you want it to be. If you're running out of yarn and you need to add your next ball of yarn into your project, that's quite simple to do. You want to wait until you have quite a long length of yarn because we're going to use the tail of this to weave in afterwards and you want it to be nice and secure. To add in a new ball of yarn, we do it on the single crochet stitch. So I have made my chain 1 here, and then I'm ready to begin my next single crochet stitch. You can do this at any point in your scarf. So to add your new ball of yarn, we're going to begin the single crochet stitch. So go into the stitch, yarn over and draw up a loop, and then stop. So you've got your tail here from your old ball of yarn, and here is the tail from your new ball of yarn. You want to leave, again, a nice long tail before you pick up the yarn. Loop it over your hook and draw your new yarn through those 2 loops to complete the single crochet stitch. Then, at the back, this is my working yarn here, so the yarn attached to the ball. And at the back of my work here, I have the 2 tails from my old ball of yarn and my new ball of yarn. You can just gently knot them together just so they hold firm for now. Very, very gently. You don't want to pull too tight. I'm just going to do a really gentle little double knot here. So that holds them in place so nothing comes undone. And then at the end of the project, we can come along and weave these tails in and out of the work to hide them. Then you can continue crocheting with your new ball of yarn. And here's how it will be looking on the back. So these two tails with a large eye needle, you would then thread up and weave in and out of your work quite a long way, because you always want to have a nice long tail. You don't want these working their way out, and you just carry on crocheting as before. Now the same method applies for if you want to change colors. So if you want a nice stripy effect to your scarf, if you're working with a solid color as I am here, when we change color, we do that in the last stitch of the row. So adding in a new ball, you can do at any point, at the end, in the middle of the work, it doesn't matter. But for changing color, we always do it in this very final stitch. So I'm going to chain one, and this would be my last single crochet of this row, and I want to change color. The method is exactly the same. I'm going to start my single crochet stitch with my old color. I'm going to let go of that. I'm going to bring in my new color, again leaving a nice long tail that you can weave in, and I'm going to draw it over the hook through that stitch to finish it off. And again, if you want to, we can do a little knot. So I'm trimming off the old color, and I'm just going to do a little small, delicate, just gentle, I don't want to distort my stitches, just a little knot there to keep it in place, and I can go ahead and weave these ends in at the end as well. Then you can continue crocheting and you have neatly changed color. Once you reach your full length of your scarf and you want to finish off your project, to do that is nice and simple. We work that last row as normal. And once you have made the very last single crochet of your very last row for your scarf, we're going to chain one, cut your yarn, leaving a nice long tail, which again we can incorporate into the fringing at the end. And then pull that yarn through that chain stitch. Pull it tight, and your scarf will be complete. Now we can add fringing as an optional extra, and I'll show you exactly how we do that now. So if you want to add fringing to the end of your scarf, it's quite a nice little final finish to your project. With your yarn that you have just been crocheting your scarf with, you want to pull out a strand that is roughly, very, very roughly, the length of fringe that you would like. It's always worth pulling out a little bit extra because we trim this up at the ends. So once you have roughly the length of your fringe that you would like, double that strand. So we've pulled out a nice long strand of yarn, which is roughly double the length that you would like your fringing to be, and then you can cut that off. Now we need to pull out some more pieces, and we need them to be the same length as this one you've just cut. I like to use this first one as a guide, so I line up my next strand of yarn, pull it along, and keep doing this until you've pulled out quite a few lengths of yarn. For my fringing, I like to use 3 strands of yarn per little fringe section, but how many you use is entirely up to you. You can use more, you can use less, entirely personal preference. So I've separated out 3 of these long strands, and I'm just going to loop them over my finger. Then with your hook, working into any part of the end of your scarf that you like. For me personally, I worked into these little chain 1 gaps, but it's totally up to you. You can work into the top of the single crochet. I'm just going to be evenly spreading these along. So if I start over here with this chain 1 space next to that very last stitch that I made, so I'm looking upside down at my scarf here. This is where we just finished off. The chain 1 space next to that, I'm going to come from the back and pop my hook through to the front, loop those 3 strands onto the hook and pull them through. Then I'm going to put my fingers through that loop and I'm going to grab the ends of the yarn and I'm going to pull them through. Now, because I have my tail here, I'm also going to pop that one through. Sometimes it's easier to use your hook to grab this. So I'm just going to incorporate it into the tassels. Then you can go ahead and very gently pull on these yarn ends to tighten up that knot. You can see my little tail here from where we finished off is in. Tighten it up. And your first fringe piece is complete. I work this all the way along for my personal scarf. I worked it into every other chain 1 space, so I didn't have too many tassels, but you can put as many or as few as you like. So here's the next chain 1 space. I'm going to skip that and into the next one. I put my hook in from the back, grab 3 more strands of yarn, loop them over my finger, pull them through, put my fingers through that loop to grab these yarn ends and pull it through. And that's all there is to it for putting the fringing onto the end of your scarf. Once you have put all your fringing on to these ends, you can grab your scissors, flatten out your fringing, and you can trim it so they're all nice and even. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you now have beautiful scarves of your own using the single crochet mesh stitch. Please do let me know what you think of this scarf down in the comments below. And until next time, happy crocheting. Bye!